given up their time today, and rather than us pay them, we are going to pay Hospitality Action. So for each of the chef's appearance, we're donating £250 to Hospitality Action. So we have raised today £1,000 for Hospitality Action. So give us these guys a round of applause. They don't know that. Look, they think they're getting paid. As I say, we just need a couple of minutes. The reason for that is because we've announced this on our Facebook and our YouTube that we're going live at 3 o'clock. So we're only a minute away. So just bear with us. I will introduce the panel very short. Just very quickly, how many of you are here in the first year? How many in the second year? And third year? Fantastic. Okay, apparently we are live. So, welcome to Staff Canteen Live. As I said earlier, today is all about celebrating hospitality as an amazing career choice. Very quickly, I'm going to introduce the panel that need no introduction, but anyway, let's go. Over there to my far right is James Golding. James had the least travel issues today because he's not come very far. He's based over in Brockenhurst. He's chef director at the Pig. James is a former student here at Bournemouth and Poole College. He's part of the specialised chefs course. He's been incredibly well travelled. He worked at the Savoy in London. He worked for Caprice Holdings, J. Sheeky's. He worked at Soho House. He's worked in New York. James is a member of the Royal Academy and he's now chef director of the Pig Group. To James's left is Adam Byatt. Adam also a former student of Bournemouth and Poole College. Again, attended the specialist chefs course here at Bournemouth and Poole College. Adam worked for the famous John Williams at Claridge's Hotel. He followed him to the Berkeley. He then went to work with Phil Howard at the Square. And he now is the chef owner of Trinity and Upstairs in Clapham, and also Bistro Union, in Clapham, and also Union Bistro. Next to Adam is Pip Lacey. And I always get told off for pronouncing where she works wrong. When I was doing a Staff Canteen Live, Cara kept telling me to pronounce it wrong. Pip is now the chef and owner at Heechee. Is that right?
No. You can say how you want there.
Pip, again, has had an amazing career. She worked for the legendary Angela Hartnett. She started working with Angela at the York and Albany. And then she joined Angela at Murano, where she was sous chef. She was a Great British Menu contestant last year in 2017. And then directly to my right is Tom Rhodes. Again, incredibly diverse career. Tom worked at the Fat Duck. He worked for Gordon Ramsay. Now Tom looks after huge operation at Twickenham. So if any of you have been watching the Six Nations, Tom is the executive chef at Twickenham. There's 45 kitchens plus there. He's also worked at Old Trafford. So what we want to do today is share this experience of the panel for you guys that are going out into industry. So first questions. What's the best bit of careers advice you've ever been given? James, let's start with you.
I think the easy answer is there's been a lot. I mean, I think as a young chef coming through in today's industry, I think it's all about knowledge. Personally, you know, be a sponge and basically everything that you experience, everything that you see, everything that you learn, take that on board. And I think that back in the day, a lot of the advice was, you know, work hard, get your head down and really crack on. But now I think, you know, that's obviously a big part of it. But the best advice I've ever had is just to take everything that you experience every day and just absorb it. You know, for good or for bad, just be the best that you can possibly be. That's what I would say.
Adam?
Hello, everybody. Nice to see you all here. It's quite nice to come back after 28 years ago. I was sat there where you are now. And this industry is an amazing one. It's given me an incredible journey, which I'm sure we'll delve into a bit more. But my best piece of career advice didn't come from a chef. Actually, it came from my father. And he said to me, you just have to be very careful. You will only be as good as the people you surround yourself by. And I think that is a really good piece of advice for the journey that you are undertaking, but also for the destination when you get there. Because right now, I'm absolutely nothing without the people that work for me. So it's about the people that surround me now. But also making your career choices on the way up there. It's really about making sure that you are surrounded by people that inspire you and can bring something to you and are willing to invest in your career going forward. So just be careful who you work for and who you surround yourself by. I think it's important, and maybe a bit in depth, but that's what I feel.
How many people do you employ now?
71. I wish it was 65.
The payroll keep you awake at night. Pip, best bit of career advice you've been given?
Similar to James's, really, is to make the same mistake twice, and therefore learn every day that, you know, if you do something wrong or do something right, you learn by it, and that's absorbing that knowledge and experience, and that'll just get you better from hour to hour, day to day. And it's just being conscious of what you're doing in the kitchen, because, you know, mistakes will happen. That's the only way sometimes you do learn. You can do, I don't know, let's say a souffle 1,000,000 times right every single time, but you've not actually understood why you're doing it right until you make a mistake, and then you understand the sort of science behind it. So, yeah, just learn from mistakes, really.
And again, Tom, for yourself?
For me, it was just learn from everybody around you, whether it be picking up their good points or finding out their bad faults and realising that your career path don't follow those bad points that they've done. Everybody that you're working with will actually teach you something, whether it be good, whether it be bad, and it was always picking up and following your career and learning from as many people as possible was what I basically was told at a very young age, of just watch what he does, pick the best bits and just learn that way.
Adam, I mentioned earlier you worked for John and you followed John. Was going to work for John a conscious decision? Did you pick where you wanted to work? I mean, obviously, James, you went to the Savoy as well. Were they conscious decisions?
Not necessarily. That was my very first job.
So why then? What took you there?
Process of elimination, no plan B. I'll tell you very quick. I'll tell you very quickly the story. So I did pretty badly at school. Went to Careers Open Day. There was an apprenticeship at Claridge's Hotel. This is a long, long time ago, and not that long. But so I went on my trial day to Claridge's Hotel. I can tell it was probably the worst day of my life. I hated it. Came home, cried my eyes out, and I laid on the sofa. And I was at my parents' house. My dad was a window cleaner, and was a window cleaner all his life. And I worked with him since the age of 14, a couple of days a week. And he said to me, "You know, Adam, it's not a problem. You don't do what you're not happy with. It's really not a problem. I'll see you tomorrow morning, 3:45. Come and work with me. You can just take over the business eventually and come work with me." And I thought, so for me it was go and be a window cleaner or go to Claridge's. So I just got up the next morning and went to Claridge's. And honestly, that's the truth of it. But actually, I feel quite fortunate because I had two choices in life. I was either going to go and do that or I was going to make a career of this. I can't sit here and tell you I just had this deep, passionate love for food and wanted to be a chef more than anything else in the world, because it's just not like that when I was just 15 at the time. But really it was a case of just there was no plan B for me.
Do you think now, I mean, you both went to London, do you think now that you don't have to go to London now? There's not the necessity. I mean, you were probably told, when you leave college you have to go to London. We were certainly told that.
I lived in here,
but now the world is a much bigger place, right? And
absolutely.
I think what's represented now in this audience is they can go and work in Cartmel with Simon, or they can go, wherever they want now. So perhaps the necessity is not so important to go to London.
For sure, this country is full of incredible chefs now, and more so though than when I finished my apprenticeship. The notion was you now go to France and finish off and do a couple of years in a 3-star in France or something. That was the way to finish off in those years. But now that has definitely changed to you can go to America, you can go to the Netherlands, you go to the Scandinavian countries, you can cook in some of the best countries in the world quite easily now. So that's changed.
Yeah.
So for this young audience then, Tom, who are about to embark on an amazing career, what would be a piece of advice you would give them?
Very similar to what Lisa said. Just don't ever make that same mistake. Don't make that mistake twice. If you're continually making that same mistake, ask for help. Just go around and help and try and work in as many places as possible. So like my career so far has been quite diverse. Started in a little restaurant where we grew a lot of our products, and we'd get milk from the local farmer and we'd make our own cheese and we'd grow our own vegetables. And I'd work at the Fat Duck, which was a completely different aspect. And I'm working for Gordon Ramsay again, from the Fat Duck to Gordon Ramsay was completely different. You've gone from methodically cooking everything at a certain time and a certain temperature to you will learn how to cook that by feel, by touch, by taste, by smell, to then going and working in huge catering numbers, from going from doing 40 for lunch, 40 for dinner, to now doing 12,500 for lunch, like we did on Sunday. It's a complete opposite, but every place that I've been, I've learned something completely different to set me on that path. And you know, there isn't a strict rule anymore. Like when I was younger, it was go and work in a restaurant, learn your trade in a restaurant. Whilst I was at college, then go to a hotel, learn something about a hotel. It was very much going. It's you can go to a pub, you can learn something different. You can go to a restaurant, learn something different. You can go to college and learn something completely different. It's be yourself. If you don't enjoy something, go and work somewhere else. Try as many things as possible to find your right path.
And Pip?
Yeah, following on from that, it's like don't give up just because. Yeah, just don't give up on that one, career path just because you didn't like a certain place. There's so many different places now. It is that diverse and different offerings. Like if a member of staff came to me and said, unfortunately they didn't like working for me, or at the restaurant, there's no reason why we couldn't put them, phone you up and say, well, how about you go and try this? And that's a nice thing about the industry as well. It's quite a big family that you can call on other chefs and other restaurants and say, oh, I've got someone here who's great, but they're not, maybe the distance that they're travelling is too far and they've had enough and they think, oh, I can't do this, I'm too tired, I can't be a chef. But it's just the little things that, we can change. And yeah, so I think just don't give up on, if the first place you go and work isn't right, you need to just find out the right kitchen for you.
James, obviously I know you do a lot of work with the college, and you employ a number of young chefs. So what advice would you give the audience that's about to embark on a career in hospitality?
I think I was saying this earlier on. I think patience is a massive part of the whole learning process when you're at a young age. And I was saying earlier, we sort of live in a world, don't we, where if you don't know something, you go online and you can look at it, or you can go onto YouTube and you can watch a video, how to do it. But I think within our career and the career that you've chosen, a lot of it is repetition. A lot of it is tasting and developing those flavours and the palate. And I think that a lot of the younger chefs that work for us, it's about getting them to communicate with us, because you can see that they're getting frustrated. You can see that they want to, be the best and move as fast as they possibly can. But sometimes, you need to take a step back and look at what you're doing and look at your job and say, okay, fine, am I the best person on this section, or am I doing this to the best of my ability, and have the patience to be able to say, okay, I just need to keep on working and make sure that everything that I do is the best that it possibly can be. And I think that's the biggest thing at the moment is understanding that you will get there and you will be the best you can possibly be, but it's not going to be a fast, quick fix. It's all about developing everything that's going on around you and developing that palate and developing, your maturity as chefs, really. That's what I would say.
Do you guys see that then as chefs that come through your kitchen, that they want to progress perhaps quicker than they should be?
Yeah, well, that's good in a way.
Yeah.
It's good to want to progress quickly, but yeah, you've got to learn everything first. You can't skip things, and yeah, but I definitely think it's a good attitude to have, rather than just wanting to stay stagnant and just sort of plod along. But then you need guidance from ourselves and structure to say, well, this is how you're going to get to the next level.
Communication is key. I think it's very important that you talk to your head chefs and your sous chefs and tell them how you're feeling. Explain what you want to do, where you want to be. I think communication is a massive thing. Back in the day, it was all about being quiet, working hard, putting your head down. Now I think that a lot of senior chefs are quite approachable. We want to know what the guys are thinking, and I think that's a big thing. Having the confidence to be able to say to the senior team, how can I improve? What can I do to be better? Those guys are there to help you. They want you working for them. So that's what I would say.
Just before I ask the panel this next question, third-year students here, how many of you have set a career goal to be a head chef? Do you mind me asking by what age? Do you mind me asking by what age you've set that goal at?
Well, 23 now, so I'd say about 26, 27.
26, 27, okay. So, panel, did you set career goals? And if so, what were they? Let's start with you, Tom, this time. I'll go this way around.
My career goal was always to own my own restaurant. In theory, it still is, but it'll be a different restaurant to what I wanted 15 years ago when I set myself that goal. I've always had a goal that I wanted to run a restaurant, of it being mine. I've sort of made Twickenham Stadium mine. It's all my menus, it's all my food. We pride ourselves that the majority of everything that we do is English food, English produce. I'd still love to move to the country. I was brought up on a dairy farm, so I want to live on a farm and grow everything myself and create my own place where I am self-sufficient. That'll still be my ultimate dream, whether it happens or not. I'm quite happy, so.
Do you think it's important to set a goal, Tom? Do you have to set goals?
Yeah.
Why?
It gives you a direction in life. It gives you something that you want to do, whether you get there straight line or whether you go around the houses to get there. It still gives you that something that, you know, you've achieved something at the end of it. And then you set yourself a next goal. You're constantly setting yourself goals throughout your career. It's never, I want to be a head chef at 30, and then, oh, I'm 30 now, I've given up on my goals. It's then, oh, you know what, I've not become a head chef, but I've learned 10 times more than I ever thought I would. It's getting to that final goal of, oh, you know what, I've taken pay cuts, I've taken job cuts to go and learn something else. I've gone off and worked places for free because I want to further myself, rather than just going, oh, I'm done by the money. They're paying me £2,000 or more than somewhere else. No, take a pay cut, go and learn something, go and learn off the best to then put yourself in a better position.
So in the early days, it was knowledge over money?
Yeah. Yeah, it always would be. Money is the last thing that I'd ever speak about when I'm going for a job. It'd always be, who's the head chef, who's the executive chef, where have they been, what have they done the research on them, have I got the opportunity to go and work somewhere else, can I go and learn from somebody else, what's the team like around you? And as Adam said before, you know, you've got to surround yourself by that team that are going to help progress your career and lift yourself up.
And Pip, obviously you've just opened a restaurant. Was that the goal?
Yeah, that was the goal when I changed to be a chef. I was like, I've always wanted my own business anyway, but yeah, I definitely wanted my own restaurant. But then that was the big, you know, dream, whether it was realistic or not. Yes, now I can say it is, but at the time, you know, you think big, you have to think big. Well, that's how I think in life anyway, but then you set yourself smaller goals, and it was week by week, day by day, even hour by hour of making sure you're set for service. That's the first goal. But then you just build on that, and, you know, as the years have gone by, it's like, okay, well, I can set, you know, my goal a bit bigger. And, yeah, I think you have to set targets to achieve. Yeah.
And do you when you set a goal, do you set a time scale? So do you say, by this time I want to be?
I have done little bits. So, you know, when I was at the York and Albany, I said I'd stay 3 years, and I did. And then I think it's weirdly, things have happened every 3 years in my career. So maybe that's, you know, what I need to work out what I'm going to do in the next 3 years. But yeah, time scale at some levels. But I was older, and I, you know, I didn't have as much time on my side compared to you guys. You know, you could be smashing it by the time you're 27, no problem. I became a chef at 27, so yeah, little time scales. Like again, when you're on the section, 10:30, I want all the sprouts done. You know, it's like that. Otherwise, you don't get it done. So.
And Adam, you've obviously got, I mean, effectively 3 restaurants. Was that the end goal for you?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it's absolutely paramount that you set out a goal, that you know where you're going. I think you also need to be a little bit careful, because the industry is so diverse and so wide. In this room here, there could be somebody who ends up in a 3-star Michelin restaurant, somebody who ends up running a ski chalet, someone who runs up being the sous chef in a 5-star hotel, in a hospital, in a school. You know, hospitality is massive. The quicker you can work out where you're going, where you like genuinely, not just because of peer pressure or what you see and think is great and cool, but where you genuinely feel comfortable with cookery, the quicker you can work it out, the more strategic you can be about that route to getting there. I worked out very quickly early on, I definitely wanted my own restaurant. I kind of knew what it should feel like. But when I started at the Square, I think that was an independent, privately owned restaurant, cooking the kind of food that I just fell in love with. It was pretty rock and roll, and it was all the things I dreamt that cookery should be. For me, it just connected for me. So that just sort of cemented it for me that this is where I should go. So from that point, I knew I would open my own restaurant. I didn't set myself timescales because I just think there's so many things that can trip that up, and you'll continue to disappoint yourself. But I definitely set myself a goal that I wanted to own my own restaurant. That was the driving force behind that. But the quicker you find that place you want to end up, the more strategic you can be about that. You can almost sort of view it like a ladder, like the rungs on a ladder. At the moment, you just have the outside bits of the ladder, you don't have any of the runs. You have to try and build up. Those runs are like pieces of information and knowledge and to get you to the right direction. Does that make sense? Yeah, that's what I think.
James, I know for yourself, you were sort of progressing nicely, and then you broke your foot.
Yeah.
Now clearly, could be catastrophic in a kitchen, right? With standing up all day.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
what happened at that point, and what did you have to do about it?
Well, I mean, just going. I think you guys have said it all as far as the goal thing. I mean, I had a plan in my head. I had goals. I knew which way I was going. It was all going very, very well. And then, freak accident. Oh, like that one. Freak accident, slips and smashed my heel bone into about 5 pieces, and then proceeded to get a bone infection in it. So, when I was head chef, my first head chef position in a foreign country, doing really, really well, suddenly I'm sort of sitting there with a pregnant wife going, okay, well, what am I going to do for a living now? Because I can't stand up and cook. I can't really, do what I've trained to do and what my goal was. So basically, I started to think about the other options, and I think that's when I suddenly realised that we're in such an amazing profession where there's so many options open to you. And I started messing around with things like making charcuterie and smoking fish, and basically looking at how I could use the knowledge that I had from being a chef in a different way that maybe meant that I didn't have to spend all that time. Luckily, I met a great surgeon. It all cleared up, and now I'm back on my feet, and it's all fine. And this was a while ago now. This was, over 10 years ago. But, I think that setting a goal is very, very important, but it's also about being able to sidestep and move those goalposts and being able to react and think about, how you can move on to the next stage of your life and not sort of get too bogged down in what you're going to be doing in 10 to 20 years. I think that, short goals, make them achievable, and give it your best is the best thing you can do, really.
Adam, was there a time in your career where it didn't happen, it wasn't happening, and what did you do about that? I've had a real journey, a real up and down journey. I did all the right things, apprenticeship, learnt from some great people, worked with some brilliant chefs, and then I opened my own restaurant probably too early. And when you say too early for what? For you? For what? Define too early. What does too early mean?
I was very eager to open my own restaurant, and I don't think I didn't have enough of the tools I needed, so I had to learn so much of it on the job that it makes that process become very laborious, and it makes making money a very time-consuming process. Because when you're young, I was just 27, I opened my restaurant, and I just sort of, I had all the cooking skills, but I still had so much more to learn cooking-wise. And had I had my time again, I definitely would have not done that until post-30. I would have loved to have spent another 3 years learning from other people rather than with my own money. But I didn't, and I did that, and then I sold that restaurant after 4 years. Did another restaurant that went catastrophically wrong, and liquidated the whole lot. So I lost everything in one 9 months, one very short 9 months. And I can tell you something, that is the most lonely place you'll ever end up. But teaches you a great deal, and you have 2 choices. Again, I faced myself with 2 choices. I either find a big, huge rock and get under it, disappear, or I get up and I make shit happen. So I did. I got up and I made it happen, and started all over again. But I believed in my ability, and I believed in my training, genuinely believed in my training. I believed that I had the fundamental resources and skill set and I believed in my cookery. So sort of, it was easy enough to believe in that side of it. I just had to get the rest of it up to speed again. So that's what I did, and I started it all over again, and here I am.
Pip, have you had any experiences where you've thought, no, this isn't going right, and you need to reevaluate what you're doing?
I think I've had quite a few moments throughout. Yeah, I mean, I've cried in the fridge a few times. I've had other people cry in the fridge a few times with me.
What is it about fridges and crying?
You know, someone comes in and like, "You all right?" You're like, "Yeah, I just hit my." No, but I think that it's a nice place to cry, I think, and consolidate your thoughts. It is with the right people, and going back to surrounding yourself by the right people. I've worked with some great people and had wicked teams where, you know, there would be a few tears and a few, you know, arguments go on, but then we'd come together and the next minute you'd be laughing about crying in the fridge. So I've had a few moments like that. What I've taken home as well and thought, okay, maybe I can't be a chef, maybe I'm not good enough, you know, I haven't been chef long enough. I've had, you know, a lot of doubts and sort of my own sort of, I don't know, paranoia from peer pressure and stuff, but again, just not giving up and carrying on and believing in yourself. It's difficult sometimes, but I think I've had the right people around me professionally that have picked me up. So.
And for you, Tom?
I've made plenty of mistakes, as we all have. There's times where I've worked on a section for so long and you're only ever as good as your last service, and you've got your last service wrong, and it gets in your head, and then you get your next service wrong, and like your head chef's having to come and bail you out. That's real, and it's like embarrassing in front of a kitchen team. But then it's how you pick yourself up from those. It's then you pick yourself up and you get your next service right, and then your confidence comes back in, and then you get your next service right and your next service right, and then you master that section kind of thing, and then you will progress. And it isn't how you fall; it's how you get back up. Because everybody will fall throughout the career at some point, but it is how you respond to that. It's how you then go, well, you know what, I'm not going to let you get the better of me. When you've worked with somebody that, you know, he'll be in your face all day, no matter what you're doing, you could be doing it all right, and he'll be still on you, and he'll find one little thing that you've done wrong. Don't let it get to you. Just continue doing what you do it well, lift your shoulders up, and just carry on working hard.
I think that's really important, and part of the reason we asked that question is you as a panel have, you know, CVs to die for, but I think what that shows is ultimately you're real people like everybody else, and you make mistakes, and even if some of you don't carry on being a chef and you choose another career, you're going to make a mistake and you're going to face tough times, and it's about how you deal with it, right? It's about just getting up the next day and getting on with it, like you said, Adam. You know,
support in the industry as well, though, Mark. There's a lot of support, you know, and more so now than ever before. The industry is an incredibly supportive place now, and you know, it's so much better than it was. You know, I get people refer chefs to me that I can then perhaps mentor them outside of their current employment situation to just give them that bit of encouragement and somewhere else to go, and that happens now. That's great, right? It's a very positive industry in that respect.
And you're right, you know, the industry is changing. I mean, we're seeing a lot of 4 days a week. We're seeing reduction in hours. You know, we've seen the rise of the status of the chef. You know, you're all superstars now. Is that a good thing for the industry?
Yes. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think, you know, I'm sure everybody in this room, when you go and you talk to people and say, oh, I'm a chef, they go, oh, long hours, no weekends off, you know, you work whenever, you know. Yes, that used to be the case, and I'm sure it is in a lot of hotels and restaurants throughout the country, but I think that there is a general movement and a consensus where people understand, and within our industry, we understand that we need a quality of life as well, and I think it's changing for the better. I think it needs to change a lot quicker. I think that people need to understand that it's changing a lot quicker as well, because I still get it, you know, oh, you know, do you ever see your children? It's like, yeah. You know, it's about, you have to have a work-life balance, and there's always going to be times where you've got to stay late. There's always times you're going to have to, you know, dig deep. But I think that, you know, the industry is changing. I think employers are understanding that in order for us to get good quality staff, we have to look at the way that we run our kitchens, and I think it's a big part of the change.
So Pip, Adam, you are effectively employers. You're your own bosses. Do you feel you're changing as an employer as well?
Well, we started out saying that, you know, we wanted to start with 7 shifts and not 8 or 10 or whatever. Yes, I'm doing more, but that's my prerogative as an owner. But yeah, we want to give our chefs and all our employees the best experience of the restaurant as well, where it helps that we've got an open kitchen, we've got windows on either side. You know, you can daydream out the window for a little 5 minutes if you want, but it's a nicer environment already, and that's just luck, I suppose. So we want to keep it that way, have a nice environment. I think having an open kitchen makes a massive difference. Generally, I know it's not feasible in every restaurant, but I think the temperament is different. The attitude of the chefs, the head chef, all that contribute. There's nowhere to hide. There's no back room of shouting or anything like that. It's a lot calmer. So yeah, I'm conscious of that, and yeah, just to give people opportunities as well. We've put people on courses already. We wanted to start out as a modern, employer. So hopefully we'll continue to do that. But at the same time, we are always still a little bit stretched in the kitchen, hours-wise, but I'm still not making the guys work any more than they need to, really. So.
And what about you, Adam? Are you having to change as an employer?
Yeah, I think the industry is a lot more conscious about that. We are definitely more conscious about that. I think for me, though, there's a couple of things. I think you hear a lot about the industry making waves to make it a far better, nicer place to work. And I'm all for that. I think that's fantastic. And it makes your future look much more healthy, both mentally and physically, which is really important. However, don't confuse that with it's going to be easy, because I promise you it's not. It doesn't make it easier. It just makes it more, you will be able to tolerate more, and it will be more accessible. You might have a slightly better work-life balance. But the hard grassroots of getting to this level is never going to change. That's still going to be a difficult place to work. That's the bad news, but it's still a wonderful, beautiful career. We have, as a company, been, like Pip said there, all my kitchens are open completely. I think it makes a huge difference to morale in the kitchen. I think it's important that the chefs see the guest, so they see what's happening, that connection with the guest that's eating the food they're cooking. I think it's really important. We try as much as we can to make the place a decent environment for them to work. And I kind of looked at it and said to myself, okay, what were the bits that I hated about working in really top-end dining restaurants? What was it that I really didn't like about those? And just sort of tried to change it, really. I just make our star food we could serve in one of our restaurants, I promise you. We give, the hours are still very, very long. They regulate, the restaurants are at 3 different levels, so the higher the level, the more hours you work, and that's kind of just how it works. But so they do work a lot of hours in the top, in Trinity, but actually upstairs in Bistro, and they work very, very sort of accessible amount of hours. And we try to make a sort of very much a family atmosphere, so it's really quite close and tight, and a place that they want to come, want to be proud of where they work, they hang out with their colleagues, and just make it a sort of pleasant environment. And that's definitely helped on the retention level. It makes me very proud of that team that worked together, and it's made it a nicer place to be.
Tom, what do you feel the industry has to do? I mean, we mentioned a lot of positives there. There's a lot of change going on in the industry. But what do you think the industry's got to do perhaps better to attract the next generation of chefs?
It's in reality, they need to also, as well as glorifying it and making chefs' lives and everything huge, like they are on Instagram now, you get the rock and roll chefs, but they also need to show the nitty gritty, because the new age chefs don't want to go into somewhere and go, well, I didn't realise that it was the long hours, the hard work to make sure that you reach the top. And it's that patience thing again. It is going to be a long, hard ride to get to the very, very top.
So is it like, we're in a college today, the colleges need to...
And it's bringing, I think that there's a lot, like we take on a lot of college students, and it's taking college students into our industries, and it may only be a couple of days a week, and it's doing more apprentices, more things like that they actually see the industry rather than just seeing the college. Because the college will teach you one thing, but the restaurant will teach you something completely different. or a stadium or a hotel will completely diversify your whole background knowledge and will help see the future, basically.
Just how many of you are on the specialised chefs course? Okay, so a lot of you do college and industry, right? Okay. Is that perhaps...
For me, is the best way.
Yeah.
For me, that's the best. Yeah.
So that you
get the perfect balance. I think that's really important.
You get that foundation as well as the knowledge of the real world, the services, as well as what you're learning off your tutors, off the college. It's ideal.
And you know what it also does? It balances it out. You get a little bit of time at college. It's a little bit nicer, a bit more relaxed. Then you get hardcore time at work, but it's not full hardcore time at work. If you just went from school straight to work, 60, 70 hours a week, you wouldn't be in great shape by the time you're 25.
And Pip, what about you? I mean, you know, you're a female in the industry. What has the industry got to do to attract more females?
I think it's doing all right at the moment. I think more females in senior positions is helping. Like I was speaking to someone before about, you know, I have a lot of girls come to me, and Angela has a lot of women in head positions with her, and we don't know if women come to work for us because we're women, or there's more in the industry anyway. I don't know the statistics, but I think it's just to be a bit more, I don't know, that it's not just a man's world, you know, in the kitchen, and that's sort of level it off where, you know, we're saying about the open kitchens. It's just a better temperament. Doesn't have to be any chips on shoulders about, you know, not asking for help and things like that. There's certain physicalities that certain people can do and can't do, and I think that is also something that should be seen in the kitchen, of just people asking for help, especially, like, you know, a lot of girls aren't willing to pick up massive big pots, and guys are like, yeah, I'm going to do it, you know. It's but in the same way, a lot of guys can't do it either. So just sort of looking at that a little bit. I don't know. It's a bit. I don't know the answer, to be honest, because I never saw it as it's a man's world. I just wanted to get into cooking, and I think it's a real annoying question sometimes for me to answer, because it's like, you know, I don't think. I just think generally, just make it a better environment, which we're talking about. I don't think we should like pinpoint. You know, what can we do to make it better for women? So essentially, what can we make it do
for everyone?
For everyone.
Yeah, that's very true.
You know, and if girls don't want to be chefs, they don't want to be chefs. I don't know. You know, can't force them to be, but we can just say, you know, that it is a great career, and I've done, you know, amazingly well out of it, and I'd love more girls in the kitchen, because I think that is a lovely balance as well. You know, to work in a kitchen, the banter's a lot better when it's even Stevens, and it's a lot more fun. Because, you know, you can get, you know, a bit too much testosterone, and the same, I wouldn't like to work in a kitchen full of women either. On
Friday, I'm cooking a charity dinner on Friday with Angela and Claire Smythe. I'm intimidated.
I would be, yeah.
That's intimidating. Put it the other way around.
Yeah.
But yeah.
James, earlier on you mentioned, you know, sort of courses and training, and I know you guys go and see a lot of suppliers and things like that. I mean, do you think that's important now for hospitality, that, you know, chefs need to get out and they need to go and experience those things? Yeah. And it's all a part of sort of promoting what chefs do in hospitality?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're very lucky because of the locations where our hotels are, but you know, we're finding a lot of our younger guys that are coming in onto the apprenticeship program, just coming to work for us. A lot of the reasons why they want to come and work with the pig is, one, because of our philosophy and obviously our provenance and producing our own thing, but also it's about knowing where your food comes from. And our biggest thing is, it's very easy to tell the chefs, oh yeah, we're using this farm, they're really great, you know, they look after animals well, they've got sustainability, you know, ratings, all this sort of stuff. But unless the staff and the apprentices actually go out and meet these people and talk to them and actually understand the reasons why they're producing the produce that they're making, I don't think they fully understand. So my guys are at Liburn Cheese now, or they were an hour ago, so we're learning how to make the cheese that Mike makes from, you know, Liburn Cheese, the old Winchester and all of that. And so the idea is that by showing them the importance of meeting their producers and understanding their passion for what they make, that then transfers into giving them a bit more respect for the food that they're using and the produce that they're working with. And that's a big part of I think, educating the next wave of chefs, so that they're not just coming in, picking up a phone, getting it delivered, and then, cracking on with mise en place. If it burns, it burns. If it's, if it goes over, it goes in the bin. It's about having a bit more respect for that produce. And I think if they're able to understand the blood, sweat and tears that went into making that, then it's a win-win. And hopefully, it makes them think about everything that they're using. I mean, we have our wall kitchen garden. The guys are down there harvesting their produce because we want them to treat that little piece of Cavolo Nero with the same respect as, the gardener that's grown it and spent all week, making sure that plant isn't hit by cabbage mites or isn't, frozen and thrown in the bin. It's about having the knowledge there to respect your produce, and that's why we do that. And
Tom, 45 kitchens. I mean, that's huge.
Piece of cake.
What is it about where you work that, what is it you guys do to bring staff in, to motivate them, to keep them motivated?
It's always a challenge to motivate people when you've got that much stuff going on. But we try to bring in, so as James says, we bring in nice products, nice produce. We give them the backstory of, this has come from a farm. Like our beef at the weekend, we did 700 kilos of strip loins, and that all came from 2 farms in Thirsk in Yorkshire. And we encourage people that, as well as our menus being as good as they are, there is still a high level of skill involved in what you're doing, and it's so that they're constantly learning. And the chefs that work for us have probably worked for us for 5 years, 6 years, and 6 years ago they were doing something completely different to what they're doing now, and it's constantly developing them. We've got people that are 60 years old that are coming and doing something completely random and new to them that they've never done before in their career, because my full-time team have been out and learned something and learned a new way of preparing something, serving something, and it's keeping everybody's fingers on the button kind of thing, that they will always learn something new and develop something new and present nice food, flavour nice food, and do it as what they want to love, rather than just, I'm serving this. They know it from the start to the finish. It's a huge thing that we're the home of England rugby. I want to embrace Englishness. I want to embrace, all of our cress comes from English suppliers, all of our herbs, all of our vegetables come from English suppliers, English growers. My cheese is all English, my charcuterie is all English. Everything like that, it just embraces and it adds to the background, and all the chefs then realise, and it's, as you say, it's showing that love for the product, that it's not, the milk, it doesn't matter if I throw half a pint away. Well, I was brought up on a dairy farm, you throw half a pint away, you're literally taking money out of a farmer's mouth. And it's creating that love for the product rather than, whatever.
Oh, brilliant. So last question for you guys then, and I'll start with you, James. Just summarise what this room of amazing chefs can expect from a career in hospitality. In a sentence.
Job satisfaction, passion. I think travel is a big bit. You're in a very lucky position that everybody all around the world at the moment is looking for good quality chefs with the right drive and the right focus and a thirst to learn. I think that I wish I was actually in their position right now. It's a very exciting time, and the best advice I can give you, I think I've already said, but enjoy it and be the best that you can possibly be. That's what I would say.
Adam?
Yeah, that's a good motto, James. That one. I think you're entering into an industry which is limitless and has no ceiling. There's nothing stopping anyone in this room becoming incredibly successful, going on to do really serious things in the industry, and being just garnering the knowledge to be a super talented, standout individual. There's nothing stopping you, and that's one of the beauties of this industry. If you're in a more academic industry and be a lawyer and accountant stuff, there are ceilings at which you can't really get above without certain qualifications and knowing certain people. This industry is limitless. And you should you have a wonderful opportunity in front of you. But you need to grasp it with both hands. You need to put your head down. You need to be accepting of the fact that you're going to have to make sacrifices. You're going to have to really put everything on the line and focus heavily to get anywhere in this industry. You will only get out what you put in. That is 100% sure.
100%. And Pip.
It's very serious. Yeah, I think, yeah, no, I agree, but enjoy it as well. Like, enjoy the moments. I've had some incredible moments and made some amazing friends, friends for life. And there's been some proper shit moments, definitely, horrible moments, but just enjoy the good ones. And yeah, the world is your oyster. You can do whatever you want. I would love to go back and travel more. I would love to have gone to Japan. I would have been rubbish at Japanese, but I would have been able to cook something, I think. And there's still
slowly and very loud.
The thing is, there's always time to travel as well, and you know, I could still go. But yeah, just enjoy it. But yeah, you're definitely gonna have to work hard for sure.
And Tom.
I think they've covered everything. No, but as I said, you know, you will only get out of it what you put in. You will to get to the top, to get to where you want to be, you've got to put in a lot of blood, sweat and tears, but you'll enjoy it. You will. I mean, I still speak to chefs that I worked with 15, 16 years ago, and I'll meet them a couple of times a year, go for a beer. There's lecturers that, when I was at college, that I still speak to. There's people that you create that relationship, you create friendships that they are with you for life, and that's what sticks with you. It is the enjoyment that comes out of working a 16-hour shift. Some of the best times that I've ever had are at the back end of a shift where you've absolutely gruelled yourself and you've burnt yourself, you've cut yourself, you've had a really tough day in the kitchen, and you sit down at the end of the shift and you have a beer with the chefs, with the front of house, with the managers, and you go, that was good, and then you do it all over again the next day. They're the best times. They're the reason why we do it. It's that satisfaction of you've gruelled and gruelled and gruelled, and the reason why you've done all that mise en place is that perfect plate that's in front of you. Everything makes sense once you've done it, but it's that getting to it. It's don't allow little falls to stand in your way. Step yourself up, roll your sleeves up and go again.
Okay.
Enjoy being a chef de partie because it's the best part of it. Don't get better.
And if anyone wants a job, Adam needs two. Okay, you're going to get an opportunity to give these guys a round of applause very shortly. But first of all, I want to come into the audience and see who's got some questions. So we are going to bribe you with Staff Canteen mugs. So hands up, who'd like to ask a question? Fantastic. Okay, is this microphone on, Pat? Cool. If you can introduce yourself to the panel, and then if it's a question for the panel, just address all the panel. But if it's one of the chefs, just mention the chef. So if you introduce yourself and then ask the question.
Hi, I'm Joe Smith. I'm second-year spec chef. Questions for everyone. What's been the most challenging but the most rewarding in your career so far?
Understanding, learning the business side of it has been the most challenging and took the most time. In fact, I think that is a big part of what colleges should really focus on, and just the basics of business, running good business practice, good economics. Is a very challenging part of running your own restaurant, and just being a good cook is not going to let you run your own restaurant.
Is that something you've had to learn, Pip?
I was going to answer as pastry has been the most challenging and then the most rewarding for me. But a bit about business, it would help, I think, at college for sure. And it's interesting, you know, it's really interesting. I've got some guys that are working for me that are very interested in knowing that side. And, you know, if you can drip feed students that, I think you'll understand and respect food a lot more as well when you're going through the industry.
Okay, answer your question. Okay, any other questions? Hands up. Yes, same for you. If you introduce yourself to the panel and then ask them the question.
Hi, I'm Joe Russell, second year spec chef. You've all mentioned that you've owned your own restaurant, that's your goal, that you've reached your goal. What do you set yourself now you've got your own places?
To keep it open.
Mine still is to own my own restaurant, whether I do it in the next 5 years, whether I do it in the next 10 years. I've not set myself a target of a time frame on it. I just want it to be the right place. I wouldn't just go and, that place is opened up, I'm gonna go and buy that. it'd have to be the right place at the right time and the right infrastructure to it to make sure that, for what I envisage my restaurant, it'll work.
And Adam?
Trinity's been open. 12 years soon. So for me, it's a different set of goals now. Weirdly enough, the goal for me to be successful now is about creating a brilliant restaurant and a brilliant work-life balance. That's like success right there. Actually, it's not rewarded in the material sense. If I can keep my team happy, all my guests happy, and my family happy, holy shit, I've done it. That's it. I'm there. I've done it. I'll tell you, that's my goal.
Great question. Any other questions? Yes, I'll go to that gentleman, then I'll come to you. So again, if you just introduce yourself to the panel, then ask the question.
Hi, I'm Kushal, second year spec chef. What are your thoughts on all these vegetarians, vegans, and pescatarians in the industry?
Let's ask James from the
No, I mean, obviously a big part of what we do is growing amazing produce, and so for us it actually sits quite nicely. We have actually embraced it, and it's a big part of our day-to-day job, I suppose. I mean, we don't do separate vegetarian vegan menus. We have it in prime place in the middle of our a la carte. One side is veggie, one side is vegan, and before it was always the same old, right, what risotto are we going to do today, what soup we're going to, it becomes something which is, boring. And I think that we've flipped that over the past couple of years, and now all the head chefs are actually take an interest, and they push themselves to come up with better and better vegan and vegetarian dishes. And I think it's a movement that is great for people's health. It's good for the planet. I don't think it's going away. I think that as chefs, you have to embrace it or get left behind, and it's something that we take seriously, and it's great. I mean, my wife was a raw foodist for many years, so we don't eat meat every single day of the week, and I think it's a nice thing to be able to have fun with.
Tom, in those 45 restaurants, you look after vegans and vegetarians?
Yeah, I was looking at my stats of what we sold at the weekend, and we did 7% of our 12,500 took a vegan option, which, if we look 2 or 3 years ago, it would probably be 0 point something of a percent. So it is on the increase, and everybody did this veganuary. That a lot of people have continued doing it. The plant-based food, you can cook it perfectly. You can cook it as well as you like. You can be so diverse with it that there is that option that it isn't just got to be a steak, a potato kind of option. The red meat industry will always be there, and people will always want it, and there will always be a vegetarian or vegan that you can create that perfect dish that they are still paying, they are still expecting that perfect service, and create the best of what you can do. Otherwise, it seems silly to not try and serve somebody the best thing that you can.
I think that the time has passed for us, but probably in this room there's an opportunity for someone to turn out and become the first sort of Michelin star or 2 Michelin star vegetarian restaurant. There's no doubt about it. That is a hugely growing phenomenon. I would be putting that under your cap if I were you.
Paul Gaylor was well ahead of his time, huh?
Completely. Way ahead. Way ahead. You would have thought.
And there was a gentleman here, someone who put his hand up. Yes, sir. Again, if you just introduce yourself to the panel and then ask your question.
Hi, I'm Lee. I was listening to about you were saying you've opened your own restaurants and stuff like that. Like, my goal in the next 3 to 5 years is to open my own restaurant, but I'm not sure if it's too soon or if I should wait a little bit longer. Can you give me a bit of advice, please?
It's too soon.
How long do you reckon I should wait?
Until you're over 30 at least.
I'm 35.
You need to have.
You're too late now.
Yeah, you're messed up. I would say you need to spend a minimum of 6 years in the industry at a level to fully understand it. Do you know what? I'm not saying that because and it's like looking down on it. Actually, for your own sake, it's almost like once you push the button, you can't go back. That's the problem. I opened my restaurant when I was just 27, and I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. Actually, I should have been a chef de partie for another 3 or 4 years and had a whale of a life. I really would be careful.
Thank you.
It's not always made up to me.
Any other questions? Time for one more question? Yes, sir. So again, if you introduce yourself to the panel and then just address the question.
Hello, I'm Craig Henley, Chef de Partie Level 3 Apprenticeship. And my question was, what actions would you take if you believed you were becoming stagnant in the workplace?
Very good.
Do you want to go with that one, Pip?
Depends where you were in your career, but I would say change it. Or at least first speak to, if you were, let's say, a chef de partie and you were feeling that way, then speak to your superiors and see what they could do, whether it's change of section or just, you know, a pep talk, whatever it is. And if not, then, you know, change your kitchen. I'm not up for people changing kitchens like every 2 weeks, but I think if you've been somewhere a few years and you feel like you're not learning anything, it's all about why you're not learning anything. Is that because of the people around you? Is it yourself? But if things are getting stagnant, yeah, just change it up. I mean, you can always go on stages. You know, loads of kitchens quite happily have people from other restaurants in their kitchen for a few days a week or a day a week on your day off. Open a book, open a few books. The internet is an amazing thing. Lots of things to look on for inspiration, Instagram, videos. I mean, my chefs have been showing me some amazing stuff. We have a yakitori grill at work, and they've been showing me some really cool things that have just like sparked loads of things off in my brain to do. So don't ever think of it as stealing other people's ideas. It's just, you know, to spark your own imagination. So that's what I'd suggest.
Anybody else got a comment on that?
I think it's a tricky one, isn't it? I mean, I think, you know, within our industry, they say you're always learning. Okay, I mean, even at, you know, my position now, I'm still learning, and it's all a learning process. And I think the reason why you're stagnant is completely personal to you, and you have to assess whether that's because of the place you're at or whether it's, you know, where your head's at the moment. But I think that, you know, by learning about something and by talking to the people who are above you and tell them that that's how you're feeling, you know, they then have the opportunity to give you a bit more interesting stuff, or, you know, maybe you should look and see if there's any way that, you know, you can have any sort of input. I mean, it's quite a tricky position, chef de partie, but, you know, to be able to get your own creative juices flowing and educate yourself in sort of, you know, stuff that you don't even know about, that's what I do. You know, it depends on your own personal situation as to why you're stagnant, I think.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's your own responsibility as well. You can't just always be like, oh, well, I need to be given this or shown this. It's like you need to sort of, you know, take it, push yourself, take the bull by the horns kind of thing, and say, well, why do I feel like this? You know, start moving around the kitchen, getting your stuff done, seeing if you can help others, seeing if you can learn off the head chef, sous chef, new techniques. So I think, yeah, some of it you have to take sort of your own responsibility with.
Okay, so I have to sit down. I just want to say thank you all very, very much for coming. There were some fantastic questions there. What I really hope you take away from today are these are amazing people. They're at the pinnacle of their career. You've probably seen them on TV, you've seen them in the newspapers and so on and so forth. But I hope today you understand, with the greatest respect, they're just normal people like you are. And they cook great food for a living. And I hope that they've inspired you to understand that hospitality is tough, but all industries are tough. Alan Sugar's in his office at 7 o'clock in the morning every day. He just drives there in a Rolls Royce now because he can afford to. But if you want to make it, all industries are tough. And I really hope these people have inspired you that hospitality can be an amazing career. As Adam said, it's such a diverse career. You know, if you don't work in a Michelin-star restaurant, it doesn't mean you're a failure. You can go and work for Sodexo in corporate catering and have an outstanding career, do Monday to Friday. So I really hope you take that away. Please put your hands together for, firstly, James Golding, Adam Byatt, Pip Lacey, Tom Rhodes. Also, give yourselves a massive round of applause. You've been a great audience. Thank you. Okay, just very quickly, our next event is at UCB College in Birmingham. Just before you all go, don't rush away, because there's a couple of things we need to do, which this lady here, first of all, we'll do the HA check first. Yeah. Okay. So, Maria, Where are you, Maria? Guys, can I just get you to stand up? So as I said, these wonderful people have kindly donated their time free of charge to be here today. So as a gesture of goodwill, we have donated £250 per chef, and that will go to Hospitality Action. If I could ask you to stretch that out. Come on up, Maria. Do you want to just hold it up a little bit, guys? We're just doing photos. Who's okay? Thank you, guys. Okay. What? Okay, take a seat, guys. Who wants to draw a lucky winner out of the hat? I'll tell you what, Pip, ladies, come on. So, raffle tickets. What number you got, Pip? Huh?
185.
185? Is that you? Congratulations. So you get so we got a goodie bag for you, which is here. And you also get the opportunity to go and work in one of those amazing kitchens. We'll contact you at the end, so don't run away. We need to get your contact details. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Cool. And then last, but by no means least, Mr. Paul Damon, where are you, sir? Come on up. So Paul's been fantastic. He has been unbelievably helpful to put this on today. The fact that you all here, all looking amazingly smart in your whites, helping us organise all this. Paul, on behalf of everyone at the staff canteen, has a voucher for £300 to go and have a nice meal at a restaurant of your choice.
Very much, thank
Thank you
Cheers,
very
thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, what else do I need to do for you? Okay, we need to grab a couple of you for interviews, but thank you all very, very much for coming. One more time, hands together for the panel. Right, guys, we need to do a little bit to camera now, is that all right?